going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. It's Saturday, time to go over the latest news from around the league. First up, Arizona Cardinals, nothing as per usual. We know exactly what to expect from this team, so there's almost nothing to ever go over there. And Atlanta, pretty big news, honestly, around Darnell Mooney. So he's back at practice now. He might be able to play in week 1. Remember, they wouldn't really tell us a whole lot about the injury. I think because they didn't know. I don't think they were trying to lie to us or deceive us or anything. I think they just kind of didn't know how long it would take him to recover. Didn't know if it would be a couple weeks into the season they wouldn't have him. But he went from kind of a long shot to play in the first couple weeks to someone who might be playing in week 1. It doesn't really matter too much because you're drafting him in that general I think at this point, 9-10, the 9-10 turn in a 12-team half PPR league. So you're probably not looking to start him in week 1. You'd love it if he went out there in week 1, he played a full complement of snaps, looked good, and you had confidence in him moving forward. But I think the positive here is that whether it's week 1, week 2, maybe week 3, but it seems like week 1 or week 2 right now, whichever it ends up being, he's the locked-in wide receiver 2, has recovered quicker than expected, meaning maybe the injury wasn't as bad as we thought. I think he's a really, really good target, not someone who's ever going to overtake Drake London, right? He's not going to go out there and post wide receiver 1 numbers alongside Drake London. Not going to happen, but a stable piece. For those of you in leagues that have 2 flex spots, 3 wide receiver, phenomenal pick that can kind of make it into the edge of your lineup. But even for those of you in regular formats, like I said, he's locked into that too. We know that they're going to have to throw the ball a lot this season. We know the defense is pretty bad. So there will be times where you have buys and injuries where you're using Darnell Mooney and you don't feel that bad about it. In Baltimore, no one really wants to draft Isaiah Likely right now. I got him at pick 196 last night. That is the mid-17th round. The latest report is that he's probably not going to miss that many games. Didn't go on PUP, so he's, they're expecting him back in the first month. I doubt he's going to play in week 1, but it seems like week 2 or week 3, we're going to see him. I like the idea of still drafting him as, you waited until Hunter Henry, Brenton Strange is your tight end 1, and you're don't love that. I'd like to have a little more upside at tight end in the bench, and maybe I don't need the bench spots as much because if you wait that long at tight end, you have a full complement of running backs and receivers ahead there that you don't really need the bench players as much. And I think everything remains the same, right? He's not someone that we're expecting in the first couple weeks of the season to be a tight end 1 and to use a lot, but someone that maybe for the 4th straight year he sees his role increase. Maybe he's someone that if Mark Andrews got hurt, he'd be a top 5 tight end. So you're just kind of rostering him for that upside and knowing that if he doesn't break out early in the season, you can drop him and add someone else off free agency. But yeah, that all remains true. It's just now instead of taking it at pick 140, 150, you can take a pick 190. It's a lot cheaper to do in draft. So I still like getting him. But again, looking like maybe week 2 or week 3 for his return. In Buffalo, Khalil Shakir returned to practice on Wednesday. That gives him over a week to be ready for week 1. Again, another situation where I don't know if it's going to be week 1 or week 2, but another player where you probably weren't. He's a little bit more expensive than Darnell Mooney, but it's still unlikely you are playing Shakir even in a 3 wide receiver league in week 1. So you're not super concerned if he's going to miss week 1, if he's going to be back in week 2. And he does go in kind of a gross range of the draft where you did just miss out on the kind of mid-tier of wide receivers, those wide receivers we really want him getting a lot of. He does go after that. So you're kind of choosing between if you need a wide receiver for the spot. Shakir, Jawan, who we'll get to that at the later portion of this video, but could go on IR if they can't get this whole contract situation solved. And then Josh Downs, who will also go over. He's working back from injury. So it's a lot of players where you don't even know if they're playing in week 1. I had an unfortunate situation where I had to choose between these guys in a league where I drafted Rashee Rice. And I was I need a wide receiver. I would like if we knew one of you was playing in week 1. So it can be a tough range. I'm still not in love with Shakir. You guys know my reservations, just being doesn't really have a ceiling. We pretty much know the whole target share in Buffalo, even when he's healthy, it's all going to be spread out. I do feel like he's probably the favorite to be their lead guy, but Keon Coleman is someone who actually has a ceiling if he's used a lot in the red zone and downfield and really starts to hit. He could get going this season. Shakir, kind of capped out at what he can be. No one on this team is going to have a 20% target share. So I don't love him, but for those of you in 3 wide receiver leagues, 2 flex leagues, especially full PPR, could we see a situation where like you want that fourth wide receiver to just be stable, just be someone who's getting weekly production where maybe it's not a crazy high ceiling? Kind of similar to Darnell Mooney. The only problem between like Mooney and Shakir is Mooney is a 2 on a team with a worse defense, that might have to throw the ball a lot. Shakir, there might be weeks where he's like the 4th most targeted player on this team, and we just kind of know there's also a kind of a bottom floor to this passing offense there. So I don't love him, but again, in deeper formats, you can still go there, and it's good that he's finally getting healthy. Panthers camp, Ted McMillan back at practice. Don't worry about the hamstring injury. Like, we were never worried about it, but if you were, don't like not draft him this weekend because of the hammy. He's totally fine. The bigger news is more so that they traded away Adam Thielen and cut Hunter Renfrow. So their 3 wide receiver sets are going to be Ted McMillan, Xavier Legette, and Jalen Coker. Tet was always going to be the guy. His projection doesn't change because of this. He was always the number 1. He remains the number 1. But it locks in the value of Legette and Coker. So it makes them both really interesting picks in the final rounds of your draft. Depends on, how deep your league is. Obviously, in like a 12-team league, they can be your final wide receiver. In a 14 or 16-team league, you got to take them a little bit earlier. If you want a deeper take on this kind of wide receiver room, watch the Thursday video. I went into both of them, but I think both are very strong late round picks. And my lean, I think, is Coker. I think I like the upside of him a little bit more. Just not sold in the value or the, skill of Xavier Legette. In Chicago, got to keep an eye on the running back situation, but it's been tough because everyone's hurt, right? Like, we have not been able to see how they're going to split these carries because all the backups behind DeAndre Swift are injured. They had a video of DJ Moore getting carries because they're like, well, we got to give someone a carry early on, and they're probably going to scheme him a couple of carries this season. But yeah, keep an eye on it. If you're drafting this weekend, I don't know, in a 10 or a 12 team league with only 5 or 6 bench spots, it's unlikely you have to go to Monangai or to Roshan. On Underdog, I've been going back to taking Monangai in round 18, as a lot of our favorite round 18 picks are now going in like round 14 or 15. They've really been rising by ADP, and so he gets around 18. It's a little bit gross. But, for those of you who like, if your last running back comes in like round 13 of a hometown league, you don't need to draft any of these backups. We did have the GM talking really positively about Monangai, but it still seems like Swift, lead on early downs, getting all the passing down work. So obviously the most valuable in this team. Roshan getting goal line and probably some early down. And then Monangai mixing in here and there for maybe a little of both. But I would say they probably don't trust him in pass protection very much. So probably only early down. But it's a spot we got to watch. Like in week 1, you could see Monangai go out there, get like 7-8 carries, look pretty good, and start talking yourself into a world where he gets up to 10, 12, 13 carries a game. They start trusting him more. Maybe he takes over as a goal line back. Like, there's a world here where he can work out. So it'll be a spot we're definitely watching in week 1. But I have not done all the week 1 projections yet. I've done, I think, the first 22 teams in alphabetical order, so you can kind of guess where I'm at right now. So I've done the Bears. They do not project well in week 1 against the Vikings. That's a brutal matchup. In Bengals camp, we have very little. We know who the studs are. We've known who the studs are, obviously, all summer. Yosivas has been getting a lot of hype as their clear number 3, but still just like a round 18 pick an Underdog. You in most formats, 10, 12 team leagues, even if you have 7 bench spots, you're pretty much only drafting their top 4, and all of them are good targets. In Browns camp, looks like they're going to start the season with Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson as their top backs. They did sign Raheem Sanders, who I like the potential on, but he's probably not going to get any meaningful touches in week 1. Judkins remains unsigned as of recording this. It does seem like it's trending towards being resolved soon. Of course, the legal battle is resolved, but like getting him signed, figuring out what the suspension is going to be from the NFL. I do think he'll face a suspension, but I think it's going to be relatively short. I don't think they're going to suspend him for the entire season on something that was thrown out of the courts, but who knows what's going to happen. Regardless, I think you can draft him. There's a lot of risk. I'd probably only take him in like that round, like 11, 12 range. He's not suspended yet, so technically if you draft him right now, misses week 1, he would be out, like he would be, I guess I'm pretty sure he'd be out. I guess I don't know if he's not technically signed yet, if he's a free agent, if he can be out, but he wouldn't be playing. He'd be inactive, so he would be out. So I don't know how they would do it, but I'm pretty sure he'd be out and you could put him on IR. But point is, I wouldn't spend an early round pick on him, but round 11, round 12, round 13 in that range, if you want to take a shot, go for it. Going back to week 1 projections though, if you started off RB0, hero RB, if it's only going to be Ford and Sampson, and they play the Bengals, I can tell you right now, Ford is projecting as running back 2. So if you need a running back and you've started off very, very wide receiver heavy and you're in this range and you've tried to figure it out, obviously this is not your second running back in the Jerome Ford range of drafts, but if you see Ford and you're like, man, I really need someone for week 1, I mean, yeah, he's going to project as running back 2 against a horrible defense as the lead back on a team. Other news out of Cleveland is Deontay Johnson was cut. So we got Tillman, we got Judy then Tillman as their 1 and 2. I still think Isaiah Bond will eventually become that wide receiver 3. I think he could push Tillman for their second most valuable wide receiver spot, but that's only a super deep league play, and it's not going to happen early. It's going to happen by the midpoint and second half of the season. In Dallas, Phil Maffa is going to open the season on IR. So it seems like they're going to start off with Javonte Williams, the lead back, followed by Jaden Blue, and then Miles Sanders as that number 3, but still up for debate if it's going to be Blue or Sanders. It really depends on both of their health, honestly, at this point. And then I think from there on, it comes down to how they play on Sundays. We probably won't learn a lot in week 1 because they play at the Eagles, and I'm imagining all 3 will be terrible. But I'm still taking a shot on Jaden Blue in later rounds. I still expect Javonte to start the season as the lead back, but then slowly lose value. So another player that if you were in this range and you needed some for week 1, sure. But again, the matchup. If you needed Jerome Ford super late, well, he plays the Bengals, right? That's one of the matchups we'll be attacking all season. And one of the better spots for a Browns running back all year, probably the best spot. At the Eagles, not exactly a spot I want to play Javonte Williams. So he'll have more value early in the year, but the matchup is really bad. So the hope for week 1 is not that Jaden Blue goes out there and has like 12 for 100. It's not going to happen. But the hope is that he gets a couple touches and looks good. Doesn't have to look like the best running back in the NFL, but hopefully he looks good. In Denver, Marvin Mims suffered a groin injury. I think it was like sometime like middle of this week or so. Sean Payton said he'll be back on Monday, so we shouldn't worry too much about that. If he is back Monday, he'll be good to go in week 1. I do think the Mims hype has gotten a little bit out of control, though. Like, yes, he played most of the snaps with the Stars in the preseason, and yes, that was different from previous years. And if he actually had, an 80-90% snap share, that would be very positive. I still don't think we can extrapolate that preseason snap share all the way through the season, let alone early in the year, but definitely all the way through the season. Sean Payton always mixes things up. He always has a rotation. And we know that, sure, Pat Bryant wasn't getting touches. Well, Pat Bryant is going to earn a role as the season goes along. So I still think expect a rotation behind Courtland Sutton, even with Vele gone. Yes, all these guys gain value, but I don't think this makes Mims some amazing play. Are you actually going to trust Marvin Mims in the flex spot? I can tell you did the projections. He's not projecting as a flex play. So again, look through all the players they're going to have. Sutton, Ingram, Mims, Bryant, Sherfield, Dobbins, and Harvey. I bet you all of them have a target in week 1. That's 8 players that might get a target. And let's be honest, both of the backup tight ends will probably have a target. I bet you we see 9 or 10 players with a target in week 1, and they're not going to throw the ball 45 times. So pump the brakes. Again, I like Mims. I think he's definitely their second best wide receiver. But if you ask me about taking Mims at round 10 or 11 where he's going, or Pat Bryant in round 17, give me Pat Bryant in round 17 every time. Also want to remind people that Dobbins will be opening the season as the lead running back and the one they trust more on passing downs. I still love Harvey. I do not think Dobbins will stay healthy all season, but understand that Dobbins will start off as the lead and slowly lose value. Harvey will start off as the backup and slowly gain value. Initial week 1 projections do have Harvey as a viable flex play right now, but again, he's going to gain value and is not someone that we're going to be gotta play him at running back 2. So know that when you're drafting. Don't draft him and someone else and then never draft another running back for a long time thinking, easily locked in number 2 production. Not to start the year. In Detroit, they traded away Tim Patrick. So that opens up the door for Isaac Tesla. It's not Tesla, it's Tesla apparently. He should win the number 3 job. Maybe it doesn't happen in week 1. Maybe Khalif Raymond gets some role. They make him earn a little bit, but it feels like he's earned it at this point. He's looked awesome. He's got a great red zone role, great at run blocking. I think that's why they felt good about getting rid of Tim Patrick was because Tesla is already very good in the run game, run blocking, so they're going to trust putting him out there. Know that he doesn't have to command a high target share because they have Gibbs, they have Laporta, they have Amon-Ra, they have J-Mo. He does not need more than a couple targets per game. I have gotten that question a lot. People being like, what is his upside, right? Like if we're only expecting a couple targets and usage in the red zone, can we trust that? I do think there's a reason to be concerned about the ceiling. Like if you play in a 10-team league or an 8-team league, 8 or 10-team league with like 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, you might be at the point where like you do have to kind of start 3 top 25 wide receivers, or you're starting 3 receivers. And it might be a little bit aggressive to think that Isaac, especially in the first half of the year, can be a top 25 wide receiver. Like that's probably pushing it. So I don't know that you need to in an 8 or 10-team league, but I think that like the average outcome here is that, when we get to the midpoint of the season, he's earning like 4 to 6 targets every week with decent red zone roles. So more of those targets coming, in the more high value area of the field. We're not really drafting him though for his average outcome. We're drafting him for that like top 10% outcome. I do think there's a world where he's featured in the red zone and racks up 10 or 11 touchdowns this season, or a chance that, he gets those 4 to 6 looks, but 2 to 3 of them are very schemed looks to where they're pretty much going to be receptions, very high value on those. Because there's a difference between like 4 and 6 looks on like a bad offense where you have to earn all of those looks and they're relatively low efficiency. This is Detroit. If 2 or 3 of those are schemed looks where they're pretty much going to be completed for a decent amount of yards or being looked at in the red zone, there's just so much more value in those targets. That's why like someone like Jameson Williams, put him on another team or look at his volume and put that on another team. It's nothing, right? But in Detroit, because of how awesome this offense is, you want those touches. So every touch in Detroit is so much more valuable than anywhere else. But then also, what if there's an injury? What if Amon-Ra or J-Mo gets hurt? Like if Jameson Williams gets injured and you've got Isaac Tesla as that clear outside wide receiver, now getting 6 or 7 looks with a couple of those being schemed usage, you're starting him every week. So I think he's that rare like handcuff wide receiver mixed with maybe he's just good enough to gain a large enough role in the red zone to where we do want to trust him as that wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 in your starting lineup. So I don't think he goes out there, lights the world on fire, and is amazing. But for a wide receiver this late, there's just not many options where you're on a top 5 offense on a team that plays in a dome. They're super athletic and they're definitely like they have a path to being, the second most valuable wide receiver on the team, a path through injury, right? So it's not the case for a lot of players this late. The talent might not be there. The offense might not be there. The quarterback play might not be there. It's all there. So if there's an injury, if the schemed usage goes his way, there's a world here where it happens. Again, we'll see. But there's still a lot of upside, I think, in Tesla, and he's only costing you that last wide receiver pick. In Green Bay, Jaden Reed has a Jones fracture that he's trying to play through this season. We were fading him before. He becomes undraftable for me now. So I would just cross him off your list. I definitely tanked him in the rankings. You weren't getting him before. You're definitely not getting him now. But even if somehow your whole league kind of fades him, he becomes that top player. I really just don't want to draft him. Even before the injury, you had Golden as the 1. Kraft probably as like the number 2 pass catcher. You have Dogs mixing in. You've got Christian Watson probably returning by midseason. Jaden Reed wasn't going to play in 2 wide receiver sets, and they were going to run the ball a lot. Like, there's just like, where is the volume coming from to where you're starting Jaden Reed? So now you add in this injury, which, like, this could end his season. This is something that he's going to try and play through the pain. But if it doesn't go away, he will need to do surgery, and that will require him to miss like multiple months. So he could play a couple weeks, go on IR, not return for like 10 weeks, and now you have to drop him. Like, that is an outcome that could occur, and I don't see why you take on that risk when the upside isn't there. Take on risk for players who, like, actually, if it works out, are league winners. There's no world where you're even like confident starting him even when healthy, so don't draft him when he's injured. It does raise my confidence in Dobbs. I did take Dobbs in that 14-team league draft. That was the league I was alluding to. I drafted Rashee Rice as my top wide receiver in a 14-team league after taking 2 running backs to start off with. I went running back, Jaden Daniels, Rashee Rice. So I needed wide receivers I trusted. Obviously, Dobbs is still like my, 5th or 6th wide receiver. But the point is, I wanted some guys that I kind of trust the role in. And at least with Dobbs, like, now we're mixing in some level of upside here, being like, okay, like if Jaden Reed does miss time or is less effective than normal, and we still have Watson out, to start the year, he might actually have some production. So I just wanted someone I could trust. grabbed him. But yeah, in most formats, for those of you 10, 12 team leagues, Jacobs, Golden, Tucker Kraft. Pretty much all you need to know from Green Bay. In Houston, the outlook for Mixon gets worse by the day. It's tough because the organization is really hiding exactly what's wrong. They do not want people to know the exact timeline. Absolutely everything is on the table. Like, he's going to miss the first 4 weeks because on the pup, or whichever one it is. He's going to miss the first 4 weeks of the season, first eligible in week 5. He could return in week 5. He could miss the whole year. Like, probably both seem equally likely at this point. I have Tank Mixon now in the rankings. I like the upside before, just knowing that, like, you are getting a player where if he actually returned in week 5, you're playing him every week at running back 2, and now you can get him at pick what? Probably like 130. I mean, we've kind of talked about how, like, there's been a difference between, like, his underdog ADP and redraft. In redraft, he's still going early. Like, you still do these redraft drafts, and people are taking him in the, like, 70s and 80s, and that makes no sense. Like, you cannot take him at that point. If he's going to fall to where he should be, which is like 140, 150 in that range, okay, like, at this point, like, these guys are all backups anyways. Who cares? Put them on IR, see if it happens. If not, you cut them. Like, it is in a range where that is totally fine to do. But, you know, someone's probably going to take him earlier than that, so just don't draft him. It obviously should increase your interest level of Nick Chubb, of Dameon Pierce, of Woody Marks. The problem is I've still listed off 3 more players that they're going to use in a 3 running back by committee. Chubb probably gets the most touches in week 1, but I don't think he's going to look good. It's a bad offensive line. He's had a ton of injuries. Can he really stay healthy? Can he have any juice? They kind of indicated he doesn't have any juice left. You're taking basically him and Pierce are both early down grinders behind a bad offensive line. So not much value there. Woody Marks is probably the most appealing because, I mean, he's probably going to be the pretty clear passing down back. Like, they'll trust him in pass protection. He's a great pass catcher. So if you draft anyone, probably want to make it Woody Marks. The problem is, again, if Woody Marks has 4 carries and 3 receptions, what are you supposed to do with that, right? Like, the 4 carries are probably going to be inefficient behind a bad line, and you get a couple of receptions, but, like, you know, it's just like a 3-man committee in this system. I don't know. I'm probably out on all Texans back, but yeah, if you in a full PPR league want Woody Marks late, go for it. Colts camp. Josh Downs. Talked about him a second ago. Expected to practice next week. That would obviously be good, right? Because it's week 1 next week, so we'd like him to be practicing. Same thing as Shakir. Same thing as Mooney. It's like you don't need them in week 1. It's okay if they miss, but you'd love your guys to be healthy, right? For all these guys, it's like it's okay if they miss week 1, but you'd love it if Josh Downs goes out there, looks good, doesn't suffer a setback, and you're like, nice, I can actually trust him moving forward. Daniel Jones will be the starting quarterback in week 1. Solid matchup, honestly, home versus the Dolphins. So fairly high total game, shootout potential if we get the playmakers on the Dolphins getting some long touchdowns, some long plays. Remains to be seen how the Colts look. I really don't know what to expect, but I'm still good drafting Downs and drafting Pittman right now. In Jacksonville, they traded for Tim Patrick, but doesn't really impact Brian Thomas Jr. or Travis Hunter. It makes your Diami Brown shares a little bit less appealing on Underdog, but still viable. Like, if you want to take Diami, he's going now in like round 18. It's still a correlation bet, right? You take Brian Thomas Jr. and Trevor Lawrence, and you say round 18, grab Diami Brown. He's not going to do that much, but randomly he might have a big play, and that'll correlate well with Trevor Lawrence. In a redraft league, just don't draft Patrick or Diami Brown. The team continues to talk up all 4 running backs. So that includes LaQuint Allen Jr., who they love. You know, here's the thing. Okay, so they like LaQuint Allen Jr. as a pass blocker and pass protection on special teams. To me, it's like, is he going to be active in week 1? And teams only usually have 3 running backs active. Not going to have all 4 running backs active. There's no way all 4 are going to be part of the game plan. I guess they could be, but I think it's going to be 3. So if they want him on special teams and as a pass blocker, there is a world here where Tootin is inactive in week 1. And I don't want people to freak out and drop him if that occurs. I still love Tootin. He's going to be one of my most drafted players. I've been doing these like high stakes underdog drafts where I am drafting Bayshal Tootin. I drafted him in my 14 team league. I am drafting all of him as possible because we're not drafting him for weeks 1 through 4. We are drafting him for the midpoint and second half of the season when I think he takes over as a lead back and is awesome to someone we're starting every week in fantasy. So do not freak out. But I think there's a possibility that something unexpected happens in week 1 and that they don't have 4 active running backs. They have 3, and LaQuint Allen Jr. is one of them. Now, maybe I'm wrong here. Honestly, I hope I'm wrong. And LaQuint is the one that's inactive. because he is still like the fourth best running back on the team. But just from like a scheme perspective, if you want the passing down specialist and the special teamer, and then two other backs you trust, it would be ETN and Tank to start off with. Then Tootin would kind of get going. They would trust him a little bit more, and they either trade away ETN or they activate all three. Maybe LeQuint kind of takes a back seat. I don't know what's going to happen. I just don't want people to freak out if that does occur. Chiefs camp, nothing. I maintain you should be fading Hollywood Brown. I do not draft him at any point. There's nothing from Kansas City. Nothing that impacts fantasy. Raiders camp. They signed Amari Cooper. Again, I don't think it impacts anything really. Like, we were already talking last week. I was like, I don't want to like completely derail the Dante Thornton hype train, but like he wasn't performing as well later in camp. And I do think that the Raiders were like, okay, we maybe need to pump the brakes. Thornton cannot be our starting X wide receiver right now. He needs more time to develop, and he's only really a deep threat. So I think this move kind of indicates you should stop drafting Dante Thornton in all formats. But it hurts everyone, right? It hurts Dante Thornton. It hurts Jack Besh. I don't think this move is related really to the Myers trade request, which came out that like it was more so teams kind of looking into him. I think this is really Beck is the backup to Myers, who will probably not be there next season. Thornton is who they hope to be the X wide receiver, but he's not ready yet, and so they need to put Amari Cooper out there. But at the end of the day, for most of you, draft Genty, draft Bowers, draft Myers, and Geno in a Superflex league. Don't worry about anyone else. In Chargers camp, Najee is now practicing with the team. It is possible he plays in week 1. I still think he's probably not going to, but he'll probably play in week 2 or 3. I doubt when he plays, he has a huge role. They are expecting Martin Hampton to be a featured running back to start the season. And then once Najee gets going, like, you know, if Hampton's that much better, maybe he continues being featured. But I think their ultimate goal is to have it be like a 70-30 split where Hampton's getting most of these touches, but they will mix in Najee Harris to get some other high leverage situations and to just make sure Hampton stays more healthy. I have been drafting Najee in 100% of leagues because he keeps falling past 150, past 160. I got him at like 175 the other day. He's still a premier handcuff, and the premier handcuff should not be going that late. So I have him right now in redraft leagues, 12-team half PPR as an 11th rounder. He's a good player to be drafting this weekend. If people are really scared, he is going to play early in the year. And there's no one else that's pushing him for touches, for that backup role. In Rams camp, Stafford practicing every single day unless he suffers a setback. He will be out there in week 1. I have no idea, though, if he takes a hit in week 1, which he's going to get sacked probably a couple times. I don't want to say it's guaranteed, but, he's probably going to get sacked 1 or 2 times. He's probably going to take hits when he's not even sacked. And so what's going to happen when that happens? I don't know. You should probably expect him to miss a couple of games at some point this season. But I still think people are fading Puka and Adams a little bit too much. We need to remember that, like, if Puka stays healthy and Stafford stays healthy, Puka's probably going to be a top 3 wide receiver and is live to be the number 1 wide receiver by a good chunk. So getting him in the late first round is awesome. He is still someone I have 9th right now. I have it the top 6, McCaffrey, Neighbors, Puka. But if you wanted to take Neighbors and Puka in any order, you can do that. But I do think McCaffrey is basically part of that top 7 now, where it was a clear top 6 before. But I think he's a great pick. I would take Kyron in round 3. I would take Adams at the 3-4 turn. Again, 12-team leagues for all this. I don't know. I just think people are fading this offense a little bit too much. Jimmy G gets a bad rap because at times, he throws those hospital balls to Adams that he hates. But it's a scheme. Like, Jimmy G is a good scheme quarterback. And it's one of those guys where it's like the game manager quarterbacks, the system quarterbacks. That's fine. As long as your system's good, who cares? If it's like, would you rather have a good quarterback and a bad system or a system quarterback and a system? At times, it doesn't matter because if the system is good enough and the quarterback can play within the system, then you're fine. And Jimmy G can do that. And it's not like Stafford is, it's not like there's a small gap. There's still a big gap there, but you'd be starting these guys every week, regardless of if it's Stafford or if it's Jimmy G at quarterback. So I'm still good drafting them if people fade them in your draft. Capitalize on that. I think basically it's like I would take Mike Evans and JSN over Adams, but I would take Adams over Garrett Wilson and Terry McLaurin at this point. Miami. Pretty sure Achane's going to be practicing next week. We will see. Obviously, we can't predict the future, but they seem to think he will and that he and Tyreek will be good to go in week 1. But you never know with injuries. You never know with setbacks. Jalen Wright will not be playing until I would say week 4 or 5, and it could be longer than that. They haven't put him on PUP or IR, but like I don't think he's going to play in the first month of the season. So right now, Ollie Gordon is the only healthy running back. I think he's a great pick. We talked about him in the Sleepers video on Friday. I don't know. I mean, if you draft HN, you have to draft Ollie Gordon. And even if you don't draft HN, Ollie Gordon's a great pick late in drafts. I maintain also Jalen Waddle, one of the highest upside picks you can make. I hate the vibes around Tyreek Hill right now. There's a chance that he gets hurt long term. There's a chance that they trade him away at some point. Like there are so many outcomes here where, or they just scheme more usage to Jalen Waddle. A lot of outcomes where Waddle is an awesome pick in the middle rounds this season. In Minnesota, they did end up trading for Thielen. We talked about that possibility last week, so I don't have to go into it too much because we talked about it last week. But again, it makes sense. They had so many injuries, plus Addison is going to miss the first 3 weeks of the season. So you need someone you trust to go out there. Not a bad pick. I mean, if you draft Rashee Rice, Addison, Jawan Jennings at this point might open on IR, Chris Godwin, you draft one of these wide receivers that might be a good value, but is not going to play early in the season, so you're taking that hit. Like, I should have probably drafted Adam Thielen in that draft I had the other night, because he's going to start with more value. Like Jefferson working back from injury. What if he doesn't have a full complement of snaps in week 1? You've got absolute scrubs behind that because Jalen Naylor is probably not going to play to start the season. Addison's not going to be out there. Like, Adam Thielen's going to rack up targets early in the year. So if you draft these guys who are suspended, who are injured, you should be looking at Adam Thielen. I know he's 35 years old, but he's probably going to play decently well. I have not projected Minnesota yet. I think they're one of like the next teams I'm doing. They play the Bears. So that's tough, but I wouldn't be shocked if he grades out as a flex play in week 1. Again, if you draft one of these guys, draft Adam Thielen this season. I don't think he's going to be great long-term because he's 35 years old. Once Jefferson's fully healthy, once Addison is back, Naylor is back, his role will shift away, but they got him for early season because they know this is a championship team. They know that these early season games matter a lot. They don't want to lose games because they don't have these guys fully healthy. So they want him for the first month of the season. After that, he's of course going to lose some value. Some people are scared. They're like, oh, should we, be pumping the brakes on Addison and Hawkinson? If Addison and Hawkinson can't command targets over Adam Thielen at this point, a 35-year-old Adam Thielen, like I like him, but he's 35 years old at this point, then maybe we shouldn't be hyping them up as much as we were. So I still think both of them go in a good range of the draft where I'm good drafting them. From a strategy perspective, I still don't necessarily love Hawkinson all the time, but he's becoming better as ADPs of these late tight ends are moving up. Like, have you seen the ADP on Tyler Warren recently? It's basically at the range of Hawkinson. They go within like 5 picks of each other. A couple picks after Hawkinson, it is Warren, it is Andrews, it is Kelsey, all just coming off the board. Colson Loveland is rising now to be like maybe 15 points or 15 picks behind him. Like, there is no longer a big gap. So when we say we're fading the mid-range of tight end, it's becoming to where like Hawkinson's not even the mid-range of tight end anymore because all these back-end tight ends are moving up. So I still like Hawkinson in drafts. In New England, nothing. We got confirmation that Diggs is going to play in week 1, but we kind of knew that before, so nothing new. In New Orleans, Spencer Rattler will be the week 1 starter. As I've said before, it doesn't matter. Rattler and Shuck are both going to make starts this season. Neither one of them are good, so just be careful investing in the Saints offense. They're going to be bad. You can draft Kamara, Olave, Shaheed. Definitely only draft one of them on a team. All 3 are viable no matter who the quarterback is. And I think if these guys stay healthy, that they're going to be decent in fantasy, but don't go overboard. Don't draft them ahead of ADP. I want all these guys at a value. Giants camp. We don't have much. Scadaboo should be good to go. I think in week 1, he played in the last preseason game, so you'd imagine he's good to go. Pretty sure the neighbors' injuries have been kind of overblown as well. A lot of moving parts on this team regarding, who the quarterback's going to be long-term and by midseason. What's the split going to be between Tracy and Scadaboo? But overall, I think ADPs are pretty accurate at this point. Again, I have neighbors at 8 or 9. Honestly, if I had the 8 or 9 pick, it would just come down to in the moment who I feel like clicking. They're both going to be amazing. If, neighbors and Puka are both healthy this season, I think both can push for 200 targets. I think both, though, go after Christian McCaffrey. And then I like Tracy Jr. more than Scadaboo because he's going to open as a lead back. It's his job to lose. But could Scadaboo just take a decent early down workload and win the third down job? Yes. So I think Scadaboo is also totally fine to draft in rounds 9 or 10, but after Tyron Tracy Jr. Jets camp. Not much, but again, drumbeat continues for Braylon Allen. Pretty much can't ignore it at this point. I talked about him in depth in yesterday's video, so again, go look at that. But he's a really good pick late in drafts. I've removed Breece Hall from the must draft list. I've dropped him in the rankings. I really hope they trade Breece Hall because he's far too talented to not be a featured running back. But the Jets don't think that. And so Braylon Allen is going to get touches this season and is a very strong value later on. In Philly, both A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith return to practice this week. Both should be good to go in week 1. Not ideal that their injuries lasted as long as they did. You don't want to see your guys returning from injury 1 week before the season starts, but I think both are going to be fine. I think they're just being really cautious with both of them. They knew their roles were locked in. It's also likely the Eagles don't win every game by 2 touchdowns. And so if they're actually more competitive in second halves, I think these two are really good picks in drafts. Steelers camp. Nothing new. Again, Warren should open as the lead back. Caleb Johnson, it'll be up to him to earn some early down touches. But I think Caleb Johnson's been overrated all summer. Warren's the guy. Warren's the one I want to be drafting in drafts. Wide receiver 2 is technically up for grabs right now, but who cares? Draft Warren, draft DK Metcalf. Those are the 2 you want in Pittsburgh. If you want to take a late shot on Jonnu, go for it. You don't need to try and figure out who the wide receiver 2 is going to be in Pittsburgh. In 49ers camp, we do have some news. So Shanahan straight up said Brian Robinson Jr. will be the number 2. That's why they went out and traded for him. They liked him apparently since college. And that's he's going to be the firm number 2. It's not going to be a wishy-washy number 2. If McCaffrey goes down, it's going to be Brian Robinson Jr. I thought initially that maybe it wasn't going to be that Isaac would mix in on passing downs. And maybe that's the case, right? Maybe it won't be 100% of touches, but Brian Robinson Jr. will be starting. He'll be someone you're starting in fantasy if McCaffrey gets hurt. So if you are drafting McCaffrey at 7, you're scared of injuries, draft Brian Robinson Jr. ahead of his ADP. It's tough because his ADP on these sites is what it used to be. He should still be going later, but just make sure you try and get Brian Robinson Jr. I know it's difficult to do. If you don't end up doing it, it's fine, right? But because you kind of want McCaffrey to stay healthy, but if you're scared, just draft him. And then Jawan, the news with Jawan, I don't know what's going to happen. The latest reporting is that, again, he has the calf injury, which will probably go away when he gets a new contract, but they're at a stalemate. Neither side is budging, and they're oh yeah, you want to pretend you have a calf injury? Okay, we're throwing you on IR with this calf injury. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I had to move him down a little bit in the rankings. It's just that Jawan was already in a range where, if you dropped his projection 10 or 15 points, it didn't really do anything. He goes after those mid-range guys, but there is a cliff into all these other wide receivers. That's why we love the mid-range, because if you hammer out enough wide receivers in the mid-range, you don't have to start drafting from that cliff below it. But he's basically still leading the cliff. I think I docked him 10 points and it doesn't even matter. So where he's going in drafts, it's even if he started on IR, you're okay, it's not great, but as long as I wasn't starting before, when he comes back, he'll be pretty valuable here. So he remains a pretty solid pick, but not someone I want to draft. I've said for a couple weeks now, McCaffrey, Kittle, Pearsall. I would like to leave 100% of my drafts with at least one of those guys, with I would say Pearsall being the top target, but really whenever you have an opportunity to draft any of them, do it. Seahawks camp. They cut MVS, so that indicates that they feel pretty darn good about Torrey Horton. He will be a starting wide receiver for them. I don't think the week 1 role is going to really be there for him. He's working back from this ankle injury, but they feel good enough about his progress from that and his talent level to where they're we don't need MVS, because they owed him a okay contract. They're we don't need him. Locked into 3 wide receiver sets now. It's going to be JSN, Kupp, and Torrey Horton. There is for sure a world where in the second half of the season, Kupp is either hurt or cooked, and Torrey Horton is the clear number 2 wide receiver on this team, and that would be someone you're considering starting every week in fantasy. So I talked a lot about him in the Thursday video. Check that out for a deeper take. But yeah, Torrey Horton's a really good pick late in drafts. In Bucs camp, Cade Otton is battling through what appears to be multiple leg injuries right now. I don't think he's going to play in week 1. It's not like you were starting him, but my goodness, Godwin's not going to play, McMillan's not going to play, Otton's not going to play. All of a sudden, sure, Tez Johnson's gained a little bit of buzz and looked good in the preseason, but Evans and Igbuka, again, I don't have that projection done yet because they're at Tampa Bay, they're later in the alphabet, but they're both going to be auto starts in week 1. You got to get these guys on your fantasy teams. And again, like I talked about a week or 2 ago, if you plan on drafting a lot of rookies, especially Yeah, rookies, injured players, suspended players, like if you're taking on that sort of risk and you know you're going to do that, Mike Evans is a sick pick because he is going to be an absolute monster to start the season. And same thing with Ibuka. He's going to be great to start the year. So if you plan on drafting a lot of rookies, players are going to start slower, injured players, suspended players, go after these guys in draft. Also, some of the Sean Tucker hype has died down a little bit. He's missed time with injury, but it's also been reported he's been pretty bad in pass protection. So I think the Sean Tucker truthers need to cool it a little bit. Rashad White has fallen a lot in drafts. If you're in a full PPR league and you just want a high floor option late in drafts where, has still somewhat of a ceiling if there's an injury to Bucky Irving, Rashad White is still a good pick. I maintain that if you draft Bucky Irving and you want to back up, it probably is Sean Tucker. He's probably the more one-to-one replacement. But in terms of like weekly value in a full PPR league, Rashad White goes too late in drafts. In Tennessee, Tyjae Spears remains out with a high ankle sprain. They did put him on IR, so he's going to miss the first month of the season. That was expected. When asked about the split while Spears is out, Brian Callahan basically just said Tony Pollard's going to be a featured running back and that he is capable of fully handling the load until they get Tyjae back. He's not going to have 100% of the touches, but he might have 85 or 90% of the touches. And honestly, it could be 90 or 95% of these touches. So to me, there's two takeaways. One, if you start off wide receiver heavy, maybe you started off wide receiver quarterback, and you're like, oh no, I missed out on some of these like mid-range running backs. I don't know. I feel like he's a must draft at this point, Tony Pollard. Like you should be getting him on your team because he's probably going to be a running back one over the first month of the season. Second takeaway is they do clearly view Tyjae Spears as that number two. Like they're basically like, oh, can you hold down the fort till Spears is back? And he's like, yeah, we're going to give Pollard all the touches until we can finally get Spears back. Like how they're talking about him is they don't trust these other running backs. Spears, when healthy, is going to have a role on this team. I was able to draft him last night at 189. That's the late 16th round. I know high ankle sprains are brutal, but he suffered it on August 9th, meaning if he returns in week 5 or 6, we're like 9 or 10 weeks removed from the injury. High ankle sprains typically come with like a 6 to 8 week timeline, and like they're bad, but if you give it 9-10 weeks to return from, we should actually expect him to be good to go in like week 5 or 6. So I think they're being cautious, which is great to see, but I don't know. I feel like his ADP's tanked a little bit too far because again, you weren't going to start him in the first couple of weeks of the season anyways. So if he actually does return in week 5 or 6, you didn't miss that much. So I don't know. I feel like he should be going earlier than he is. I'll draft him round 16, round 17 if he falls that far. Then finally, Commanders, nothing big to report. Watch yesterday's video on a longer JCM take. It was a very long take to start yesterday's video, so I would really just watch that. I stand behind just saying that JCM is a little bit overhyped. His ADP is getting a little bit too aggressive. I would rather take Chris Rodriguez in like the final round of my draft than Ja'Cory Cross-Gamera in round 7 or 8, because that's what it's going to cost you to draft him this weekend in a competitive league. In a non-competitive league, maybe he falls, and then it's fine. Other than that, we know what to expect from Washington. Terry McLaurin signed. He's the alpha. Debo's going to mix in. He's going to have more schemed usage than non-schemed usage. And then you have Noah Brown and Jalen Lane, who's gaining some hype later in camp, competing for that wide receiver 3 job. So good luck to everyone who's drafting this weekend, which is probably most of you. Please read the must draft list on the website. And if you want to draft with the rankings, you can do that again for every scoring format on my website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. If you have a in-person draft, I highly recommend the printable rankings. I put a lot of effort into making them really nice. You can get the one sheet one as well, so everything is listed off, color-coded on one page. We'll have mock draft Monday on Monday, where I'll also go over some bold predictions for the upcoming season. But then it is on to week 1 content after that, because believe it or not, when this video goes live, week 1 is 5 days away. All right, that'll do it for this one. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next one.